Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about the incubator training program. We don't have a classroom training problem. We have a transition problem. Our trainees spend 6 weeks in a structured academy learning protocols and procedures, technology, documentation, communication techniques, and decision-making skills. They practice those skills in a controlled, simulated environment where they have time to learn, ask questions, make corrections, and gradually build confidence. And then the environment changes. We ask them to take everything they have learned and put it together simultaneously with a real caller, experiencing a real emergency, in a high-volume emergency communication center where the next call is already waiting. At the same time, they're managing something we don't always talk about in technical training, the transition from feeling relatively comfortable and confident in the classroom to the anxiety and pressure of knowing that now it's real. The caller is real. The decisions matter. And mistakes suddenly feel very relevant. They're also entering a developmental process where they're going to receive a significant amount of corrective feedback. That's expected. They're learning a complex job, and there will be things they miss, decisions they need to reconsider, and times when a trainer has to intervene. But for a new trainee, that volume of correction can easily begin to feel like I'm failing rather than I'm learning. Part of the incubator's purpose is to normalize that developmental process early, to help trainees understand that feedback, correction, and even mistakes are expected parts of learning the job. The goal is not to excuse mistakes. It's to teach trainees how to receive the feedback, reflect on it, recover, and apply it to the next opportunity. Traditionally, that integration and adjustment begins in individualized OJT, where trainees are also expected to progress toward increasingly independent performance. That's a significant leap. The incubator creates a bridge across it. Our training needs analysis found that trainees generally leave the academy with the foundational knowledge needed to continue training. The greater challenge is integrating that knowledge under live operational conditions. They must manage protocols, technology, and everything they've learned, all at the same time. But the transition is not only technical, they're also learning how to receive and apply feedback in real time, recover from mistakes, and understand that correction and trainer intervention are expected parts of the developmental process, not automatically indications of failure. If the problem is not inadequate classroom instruction, more classroom instruction is not necessarily the answer. And if we rely on OJT alone, CTOs must teach integration and those developmental behaviors while also managing operational risk and moving trainees toward independence. The incubator is designed specifically for that space in the middle. The transition gap has an organizational cost. Our review identified longer OJT progression and increased PST intervention, while the operational environment itself became more demanding. Extended OJT requires more one-to-one training. Reaction, intervention, and remediation require additional resources. Experienced CTOs carry sustained instructional demands while still performing in a high-stakes environment. And every trainee already represents a significant investment in recruiting, hiring, equipping, and training. The question is not whether the transition costs us. It already does. The question is whether we can manage that transition more intentionally. So the solution. The incubator is a structured 2-week bridge, 8 10-hour days for approximately 4 to 6 trainees. About 25% of the day is targeted for live calls. One trainee handles the call while the others actively follow the same incident using the TestCAD and TestProQA, making their own decisions rather than simply watching. The instructor coaches and intervenes whenever necessary to protect patient care, responder safety, protocol compliance, or service delivery. That intervention is expected in this environment. It protects operations while giving the trainee an opportunity to understand what happened, learn from it, and try again. Then the group debriefs together. What went well? What was missed? Why were decisions made? What should happen differently next time? That learning is carried into deliberate practice or the next opportunity. Because we cannot control call volume, test CAD, test ProQA, case review, targeted scenarios, and deliberate practice keep the learning intentional when natural exposure is limited. One real call can create multiple active learning experiences. This is where the incubator is fundamentally different from normal OJT. OJT is individualized by design. One trainee works with one CTO, and the expectation progressively moves toward the independent performance. That is exactly what OJT should do. The incubator has a different purpose. It is collaborative. 4 to 6 trainees learn together, and even when only one person is speaking with the caller, everyone is actively engaged in the same event. It is also intentionally developmental. Trainees learn to ask for help, receive feedback, reflect honestly on mistakes, recover, and apply coaching to the next opportunity. We want them to give themselves some grace while they are still learning and still developing. That does not mean mistakes do not matter or standards are lowered. Supportive does not mean permissive. An error or instructor intervention becomes informative. What happened? Why? What can I learn? And what will I do differently next time? The incubator prepares trainees to use OJT more effectively. So if I'm asking leadership to invest in 8 additional training days, I should be able to answer one question. What do we get for that investment? The comparison is not simply the cost of 8 days. It is 8 days compared with extended OJT, repeated remediation and PSD intervention, sustained CTO training burden, and the cost of an employee who does not complete training or leaves after significant investment. I will not promise that the incubator eliminates those outcomes. What I will promise is that we will measure them. Before the first cohort, we establish historical baselines. An initial CTO survey approximately 1 week into OJT gives us an early look at preparation and transfer. We then continue following performance at approximately week 6, week 10, and OJT completion. We examine progression, interventions, successful completion, retention, and training burden across reaction, learning, transfer, and results. Leadership does not have to accept that the incubator feels like a good idea. We can determine whether it produces meaningful results. So why should Lee County Emergency Communications adopt the incubator? Because it addresses an identified performance gap without replacing the academy or OJT. It strengthens the connection between them and gives trainees authentic collaboration, structured practice before individualized training begins. The goal is not independent proficiency. The goal is a stronger foundation for continued development. That foundation allows the trainee into OJT through a standardized developmental report, individualized goals, and CTO orientation to the incubator model, so coaching continues rather than starting over. If trainees enter OJT better prepared to integrate what they know, receive and apply feedback, recover from mistakes, and manage the realities of the operational environment, both the trainee and the CTO begin from a stronger position. If that contributes to more consistent progression, fewer reactive interventions, successful completion, improved retention, or reduced training burden, the return extends beyond those 8 days. We already invest significantly in developing emergency communications professionals. The incubator protects that investment by strengthening the point where knowledge has to become performance. Our goal is not to replace OJT. It is to make OJT more effective. Thank you.